Hey listeners, my name is Ethan. I used to be Mr. McGraw's student. I hope you enjoy the bell. If you want more people to hear student voices, go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. It really helps new listeners discover the show, and it only takes a few minutes. Thanks, people. Now here, your host, Mr. McGraw, aka Curls for the Girls.
Thanks, Ethan. And just to be clear, Curls for the Girls was not a part of that script. But I'll make you guys a deal. If we hit 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts, I'll let Ethan explain how I got that nickname. The Bell is a platform that elevates the voices of students in the conversation about education and empowers them to lead the fight for their futures. On this first season of our podcast called Hearts and Minds, we explore school segregation through the voices of those most impacted by it, students. If you haven't listened to the first 3 episodes, you should pause now and go back and start from the beginning.
No one likes a line cutter.
This is episode 4, Who Needs Integration? It's brought to you by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, delaying trains all summer, so you have time to listen.
I'm about as late as I can be. 'Cause it's a stuck train and you know it. I think they may fire me.
About a month ago, I was on a delayed subway train, and unfortunately, there was no impromptu sing-along. So I opened my Pocket Casts app, queued up one of my favorite podcasts, and hit play.
My name is Malcolm Gladwell. You're listening to Revisionist History, my podcast about things overlooked and misunderstood.
The episode, called Miseducation's Period of Adjustment, is about school desegregation in the South. It features an interview with Leola Brown, whose family was at the center of the landmark Supreme Court case that bears their name, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. Leola's daughter Linda attended an all-black elementary school called Monroe and was barred from entering an all-white school that was closer to home.
Leola grew up in Topeka. She went to Monroe as well, and Leola Brown makes it very clear that she loved Monroe.
Right? Oh, it was wonderful. I tell you, it was wonderful. And had it not been for this walking, to school and going so far to school, we possibly never would have, done what we did.
We possibly never would have done what we did. What they did, of course, was help dismantle the system of school segregation in 18 states across the South and Midwest. But if you ask Leola Brown, there was nothing wrong with the black schools. She just wanted her family to have the option of choosing the other ones. Gladwell uses her testimony to challenge the common interpretation that segregated schools were inherently inferior. I won't spoil the episode for you. Give it a listen yourself. Again, it's called Revisionist History. When I listened to it, I was reminded of an exchange I witnessed almost 2 years ago between 2 well-respected African-American scholars who had a core disagreement about school integration.
I remember a few years ago when UCLA's Civil Rights Project released a report naming New York State as the most segregated state for black children in the country and New York City as the most segregated school system in the country. I remember distinctly the headlines all across the land were, "You will never believe where the most segregated schools in the country are. They are not in the South."
Meet scholar number 1, Nicole Hannah-Jones, a New York Times reporter who covers race and education. I've cited her before. She's one of the leading authorities on school segregation and gets invited to talk about it a lot. This particular event is at the Brooklyn Historical Society in the fall of 2015. Hannah-Jones is sitting on stage at the end of a long table of 6 panelists, moderating a program called Our Segregated Schools Epidemic, Tales from the Front Lines. In a room of beiges and grays, the moderator stands out in her orange suit jacket and red hair. There are about 150 people in the crowd, drinking Brooklyn lagers and sipping white wine. I'm in the front row.
It is only that because we are progressive in the city and we believe that this is a place that would never tolerate segregation that we have allowed ourselves to deny what has been going on in the city for more than 4 decades, 5 decades, 6 decades.
For about an hour, she leads a stimulating panel discussion that combines data with personal experience and historical context. If you want to watch it, I've embedded the video on this episode's page at bellpodcast.com. The disagreement between the 2 scholars comes after the panel, when Hannah-Jones invites audience comments. Meet scholar number 2.
This has been an excellent program, and we do need to talk about race. But I want to point out, my name is Darryl Rock. I was a principal for 10 years in Brooklyn, District 13, at Benjamin Banneker High School. And this is what I want the panel to think about. Our school was totally segregated. All black kids, all black teachers, and we had the highest graduation rate in New York State for black students. Okay, so the point is...
Darryl Rock is middle-aged. His long dreadlocks have some gray in them. The whole time he's speaking, Nicole Hannah-Jones has a look on her face that says she knows where this argument is going.
Maybe we don't need to go to those schools. If we put the energy and effort into improving our schools, and what do you think the kids think about, oh, I have to go with them so that I'm better? We don't need to go to those schools, but we have to get the right people to educate our children. Again, our school, all black kids, all black teachers, is a wonderful place for kids to go to school. You have people that cared about you, that weren't afraid about you, and we're going to motivate and push you to make sure that you were successful.
Here's how Hannah-Jones responds.
I mean, absolutely. I think, of course, we actually chose to enroll our child in a segregated school intentionally. But I just as a reporter have to point out that experience is exceptional. Right. That is not the norm. You almost never find high schools. You can sometimes find segregated elementary schools that are producing the same results, but that is not the norm anywhere in the country, and educators will tell you that. The other thing is that what I have found, sadly, because I'm a cynical person after studying education for a long time, is there is no perfect experience for black children. Whether they are in a segregated school or integrated school, it's a matter of mitigating which burden will my child have, because there will be one, and that is clear. And I guess the last thing that I would say is we have been, since Plessy v. Ferguson in the 1800s, promising to make separate equal for black kids. We have not done it. For a single day, in a single district, in a single school, we have not done it. So I think to keep hoping that eventually we will do it, that eventually when you separate all the poor black kids in one school, that people in power will one day give those kids what they deserve, we just haven't seen it. It's just not based in reality.
The two scholars continue to go back and forth.
And if you look back at the segregated schools in the South, before integration, those kids were successful. There's a book called Their Highest Potential. Everybody needs to get and read it. It talks about those segregated schools in the South. And the culture that was in those schools is what led to those kids being successful.
Then Hannah-Jones ends it by saying,
no one's arguing. I think we should probably do both. But if there's a reason why the Supreme Court decided Brown v. Board, and it's because those schools were not equal in the South either.
We'll come back to this exchange at the end of the episode. But first, a couple of younger scholars have some things that they want to say.
Okay, so my school is in Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, which is a gentrified neighborhood, which means you would expect students from the neighborhood to be going to the school in the neighborhood, but that's not the case. My school is predominantly black and Hispanic.
This is Tony. She was one of my students last year in a college prep program called Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, or SEO. All of the students in my SEO writing class went to different high schools.
There's no type of diversity, and I wish there was more because I only have black friends. I know nothing about black people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with black people, but can I learn something else about other people?
How did Tony choose her school?
I remember I went to the Brooklyn Tech high school fair, and that's when I learned about my high school. And other high schools, I wanted to go to either Edward R. Murrow, Brooklyn College Academy, and other schools, but I ended up choosing my school because my friend was going there, and I was afraid to start somewhere new by myself. And I kind of, from the requirements, from the high school book, they made my school seem like I guess an early college, but I kind of feel like the system is kind of rigged. On the book, on the page, it says that you need a certain average to get in, and they keep certain standards and uniform and all these things that would make me think that it was a really strict school. And I get here and it's completely different. So I'm just like, that all went out the window. Like even Africa tours, like that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to go to my school because I wanted to try something new. I wanted to, I know that I just want to connect with myself.
If you missed that, Tony said part of the reason she chose her school is because they took students on trips to Africa each year. And she really wanted to do that, to connect with herself. But by the time she got there, they weren't doing the trips anymore. I mean, how else was it not what you expected besides the Africa tour? Because you came from a charter school.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? I came from Achievement First, and it was really strict, down to the socks. Like, your socks had to be black.
Achievement First is a network of charter schools, primarily in Brooklyn. Full disclosure, I taught at an Achievement First high school in Bushwick last year. Tony's not exaggerating about how strict it is.
Then I stepped into my high school, first day. Children were screaming in the hallways. I'm like, what are you doing? The cafeteria was crazy. I didn't even know where I was supposed to go. The schedule wasn't like printed. It was really unorganized, and I wasn't used to that. And so I was thinking, like, a lot of people told me not to go to a public high school, and then I found my school, and I was like, I know my school's not going to be like that because of all these good things in a book. And then I get there, and it's kind of like what people were telling me, and then I'm starting to regret going to my high school.
This is becoming a theme when I talk to students, the school not matching its description. I wanted to know more about Tony's academic experience.
I was supposed to be in the media-focused discipline, but there was also a pre-engineering and a pre-med program and a general humanities program. Well, that's what the book said.
But when she got there,
people didn't know anything about it. So, yeah.
She also said,
we have a new principal, and he added so many APs this year.
APs are advanced placement courses, which students can take for college credit.
But I feel like it wasn't really that effective because, originally, I was supposed to be an AP US government. And I signed up for the class last year, and I was not placed on the roster this year. Then when I went to my guidance counselor, she said, there are not enough seats.
Same thing.
That doesn't make sense. Okay, but now I'm kind of glad that I'm not in the class because students are saying they're not learning anything, and the teacher's not teaching about AP US government. He's teaching about his life. Like, people don't care about that. And it's just like, why are you adding AP classes if the teachers have a curriculum that they were supposed to outline and they're not following it?
Tony did share some positive aspects of her high school experience, specifically having Black teachers.
When you learn from a Black teacher, as a Black student, you feel you might get a different type of learning experience from that. My English class, from sophomore and junior year, even though it was an English class, I don't consider it exactly English. I feel like it was more sociology because my teacher, he's Japanese and African American, but he liked to teach us about like the Black experience, I guess. And I wasn't really woke, I guess, until before that class. We read the autobiography of Malcolm X in class, and he felt that was something important that we needed to read.
This was a real contrast to Tony's experience at Achievement First, which had a lot more white teachers.
In Achievement First, I would have said that I was pro All Lives Matter, and I didn't realize that it's not about all lives mattering. It's about people who are suffering, and I just thought that if you're suffering, you can motivate yourself to get out of the system, or like you can work hard. But I didn't realize that odds were set against. Well, I knew odds were set against you, but I didn't realize that odds were systematically set against you.
The name of Tony's high school, by the way, Benjamin Banneker Academy, the school where Darryl Rock was a principal for a decade. The school, he said, had the highest graduation rate for Black students in New York State. He was gone by the time Tony got there, but the graduation rate is still really high. Last year, it was 97%. But there's something Tony alluded to that Rock didn't mention. Banneker is a screened high school. It selects only top middle school performers, so it's unfair to compare the results at a school like Banneker to an unscreened school, say the School for Classics in East New York, where Noah went. It's apples and oranges. But the Department of Education figured out a way to compare apples to apples. On its annual school quality snapshot, each school is given a comparison group made up of similar middle school performers who chose other high schools. The graduation rate of Banneker's comparison group, 95%, which means Banneker did a slightly better than average job of graduating its students. But let's look at another stat, one that many argue is more important. Last year, half of Banneker's students graduated college ready. In Banneker's comparison group, nearly 3/4 graduated college ready, meaning Banneker did a below average job of getting students ready for college. The point of all this, schools are complex. We can't judge them solely on a single person's perspective, whether it's Leola Brown, or Darryl Rock, or Mayor de Blasio, or the person who writes the descriptions in the high school directory. When it comes to education, we need to do a better job of getting the whole story. And that necessarily involves listening to students. After the break, we hear from a Black student at a mostly white school. Stay with us. Hey folks, I really appreciate all of your encouraging emails, tweets, and especially those iTunes reviews. But there are ways to connect with us in person too. The Bell supports a student-led coalition called Teens Take Charge that advocates for educational equity across New York City. In a few weeks, the students are hosting a really unique event at the historic Schoenberg Center in Harlem. Students will be sharing their thoughts about education with political candidates and school officials live on stage. You don't want to miss it. So mark your calendars, Tuesday, September 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. Tickets are free and they're going fast. Find the event on the Bell's Facebook page, @Bell Podcast, or go to teenstakecharge.com and click on events. We hope to see you there. Now back to the show.
My high school is, I want to say, majority, like 50% around that area white. It is more diverse than most schools, but it is not as diverse as it could be.
This is Yasin, another one of my SEO students. She's from Harlem, but chose to go to Beacon, a selective high school in Hell's Kitchen.
Like Tony, I went to a charter school. My charter school, was down to the T. Like, you could get detention for anything. Like, not looking back, I think it was a good environment for me for middle school, but high school, I think I could have prospered elsewhere. And I got the directory. I looked through every single page of the book, and then I decided I put Millennium High School, then Beacon. I didn't tour Beacon. I didn't know where Beacon was. I don't even remember what attracted me to Beacon High School, to be honest. Oh, and I also took the SHSAT. That was a funny test.
SHSAT stands for Specialized High School Admissions Test, a gatekeeper to the city's 9 specialized public high schools.
It was funny because, one, I was unprepared for it. Right. I went in I'm the top of my class. I'm going to go take this test, get into Stuyvesant.
Wait, the specialized high school test? Oh.
I took the test.
Yeah.
And then, it was so intimidating. It was just a room full of white people. Literally. And then, a couple of Asians in mine. And then they all got up, before me. And then I was just okay, what did I miss? What's happening? And then to find out that I actually scored below. I don't have the whole thing with specialized high schools, but yeah, I took that. I shouldn't have, but whatever.
So Yasin didn't get into Stuyvesant, which, by the way, has the lowest percentage of Black and Hispanic students of any high school in the city, about 3%. But Beacon, where she wound up, is consistently ranked among the city's top high schools. What was it like?
My school, I would say, is unique because of the resources we have. We just moved into a new building, and it's oh my God. So if you're especially if you're into the arts, music and theater and dance, this school has so many resources for you. They have millions of dollars invested into instruments and recording studios. I was so shocked when I went down. I was yo, this is crazy. But especially there, it's very invested. And I also think that the teachers, like I'm just starting now to see that I think that the teachers are a unique quality because a lot of teachers have stayed at my high school for a long time. I think that because I had experienced teachers, it was less like they knew like what we had to learn. Oh, actually, okay, yeah. They knew what we had to learn and stuff like that. And they were better at like having us think critically as opposed to just memorizing material. And also, another reason why school is unique is because we don't take regents and teachers have the flexibility to teach what they want so they're not teaching to a test. And I think that has been like such an amazing like asset to my school because we are, for example, like there are certain topics that we would have to cover that are not as interesting. Like, for example, I'm taking a class right now called The Truth About Change, and this class is literally changing me. Like, the first day, he said, okay, you guys are going to change something in America. Like, he said, identify the largest problem. He's like, by the end of the semester, you're going to change it. And when he told me that, I was like, nobody has ever told me I had the power to change, like, a societal problem I had, and that was just so empowering. Oh, yeah, and they have, like, great science facility. It really like reminds me of like a liberal arts college.
So no tests, experienced teachers who have autonomy and teach classes about social change, state-of-the-art facilities. This is a far cry from the description I've gotten from any other student I've interviewed in New York City. What accounts for the difference? I think it's pretty simple. There are a lot of affluent white kids in Yasin's school. Officially, Beacon is 53% white, 22% Hispanic, 14% Black, and 8% Asian. Just 24% of students qualify for free or reduced price lunch, which is like 3 times lower than the city average. Yasin said she's learned a lot from her peers, but she said the school has a lot of room to grow when it comes to diversity.
There have been so many studies that show that when you're in a room and you're surrounded with people from different backgrounds, you do better. Like, the outcomes of that school is, like, better because, like, you're learning from their experiences. And also it forces you to think critically because if you're talking about racism, for example, you're talking about it not from one lens and perspective, but you have other people in the room who can add to that conversation.
Yasin also has some thoughts about another education issue.
I would also fix like funding in education because if you look at like where the money goes, it's like there's such like huge disparities in how much like Stuyvesant gets as opposed to like your low income public school. Why is that? People who have less resources than me and people who have way more resources than me are looked at the same level, and it's not fair. I don't think zone schools should be bad schools. If you're going to your zone school, I think you should know that, oh yeah, I'm going to get a quality education and I don't have to travel miles and borough to get a good education.
As I'm listening to Yasin, all I can think about is whether her more affluent peers, who have never seen the other side of the education system, understand how good they have it. In April, Yasin participated in the first Teens Take Charge event at the Bronx Library Center. The students wrote letters about their educational experience and addressed them to whom it should concern. You can read all of their letters at teenstakecharge.com. Here's the recording of Yasin's performance from that night.
To whom it should concern. I live in the center of Harlem where I attended middle school, but now I go to an elite public high school in Midtown. 2 different worlds, only 5 miles apart. At my high school, 93% of students graduate college ready. At my zone school in Harlem, 7%. I didn't realize that an A in Harlem was not the same as an A in a majority white high school on the Upper West Side. I had to go through this process on my own as a low-income child of immigrants who did not understand the American education system. In my high school, I have the privilege of walking through unlocked doors. Security guards sit on corners, in a corner smiling, wishing us good morning. Vast hallways, white walls, high ceilings, bright lights. My own textbooks that I can bring home if I need to. I go to a school where the majority of students are white, and I wonder how I made it there, despite living in a neighborhood where opportunity is slight. Where teachers only stay in schools for 2 years before deciding they've had enough. Where poverty is high and expectations are low. And I cannot help but think what made it this way. What happened in 5 miles that determined who got to graduate, who went to college, who got to explore their talents, who learned to question? To whom it should concern, there are 2 different worlds only 5 miles apart. Please tell me what happened. And P.S. I've always been told that I had to work 2 times as hard. I put extra work and hours into academics and studying so I would not end up at my local high school where I would be cast away as a statistic. I worked through the system to find ways to open up doors for myself, going through ancient books to find rules to a foreign game. I was a Black girl who was the daughter of immigrants with education the only hope of redefining herself. It was remarkable that I beat the odds and thought I'd find greener grass, but instead I was introduced to an elite education system that had no space for me. I walked into a school where my Black and brown peers struggled to stay afloat and were barely passing their classes. I came into a school where we were made to leave our identities and struggles out of the classroom. My elite school thought diversity ended when you put Black and white students together and did not create space for us to learn off of those identities. No one told me about the rooms and spaces I would need to create for myself in order to survive. I wonder why the more elite opportunities I can attain, the more I feel I have to leave parts of myself behind. I am useful beyond numbers, so I ask, when will you be able to find talented Black and brown students and love us too?
Yasin's letter reminds me of something Nicole Hannah-Jones said that night at the Brooklyn Historical Society.
What I have found, sadly, because I'm a cynical person after studying education for a long time, is there is no perfect experience for Black children. Whether they are in a segregated school or integrated school, it's a matter of mitigating which burden will my child have, because there will be one.
The debate between Nicole Hannah-Jones and Daryl Rock is a big one in education right now. To be clear, I am firmly in the Nicole Hannah-Jones camp. We need to integrate our schools. I've always believed that schools should resemble the society we aspire to be, not the one we used to be. The way our schools look today is the same way our society will look a generation from now. I do want to clarify 2 things that I don't hear talked about often enough. Number 1, integration is just as, if not more important, for affluent white kids as it is for poor Black and brown kids. School integration can go a long way toward breaking down racial barriers and helping white students understand their privilege. It certainly did for me when I was growing up. And number 2, Daryl Rock is right about a lot of the things he said. Students of color benefit from having teachers of color. But I'll add, so do white kids. We need to fully integrate our teaching force, not just our students. And Rock is also right when he says schools have to be places where students feel valued and loved. Yasin benefited academically from her experience at Beacon, but she didn't always feel comfortable there, and that's unacceptable. Integration is not just the movement of bodies. At the risk of being corny, I think of integration as the movement of hearts and minds, as well as privilege and power and capital. This fall, Tony is headed to Boston College to study communications, and she plans to work on the school newspaper. Yasin is headed to Smith College to study biochemistry and sociology. She plans to run for class president. You can go ahead and send her your campaign contributions. We have 2 more episodes coming your way this season that I cannot wait to share with you. We'll also be releasing a lot of bonus material because there's tons of great stuff that we haven't been able to fit into these episodes. If you like the show, seriously, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Spread the word on Twitter and Facebook. You can tag us at Bell Podcast. And if you have any story ideas, questions, or comments, go to bellpodcast.com and click Contact. Happy August, everybody. Teachers and students, hope you enjoy the last bit of summer. And for the rest of y'all, good luck with those commutes. Thanks for listening.
I'm about as late as I can be. Cause it's a stuck train and you know it. I think they may fire